Crowdfunding for GoldenFox Pictures to support him on my patrons, including Science Steel Rail, Courtney Bright, Thomas Fan 3751, Brandon Bishop, Toxic, Sniper Fox, Azure Lore, and Enwood Flores. Thank you all so much for your support. I hope you enjoy the review of Sonic the Hedgehog.
Always want to do this. Nailed it.
Hey, oh,
Uh-oh.
let's go.
Here comes the boom.
How are you not dead?
I have no idea.
Oh, give me a big fat break!
When I first heard that Sonic the Hedgehog was getting a live-action treatment, I cringed immediately. The idea of taking a video game cartoon hedgehog who runs faster than a speeding bullet was beyond my understanding of how this would work. That's not including collecting giant rings through giant hoops, eating chilling dogs, and confronting an overweight mad scientist. As is, let's be real here. Despite how much of an impact it had in the 90s and gained its following over the past few decades, Sonic was a very, very surreal franchise. Aside from the speedy blue hedgehog, you also have a fox who propels its tails like a helicopter to levitate, and an echidna who can glide and climb walls by spiked knuckles. It also didn't help that the first trailer with the ugly Sonic design was even more discouraging. But even putting all of that aside, the trailer itself was already becoming formulaic. An adult encounters the cartoon character, runs into a series of mischiefs and mishaps, and grows a friendship along the way. I've seen this done in a lot of films before. Alvin and the Chipmunks, Hop, the Smurfs, just to name a few. This was on top of the fact that it's another video game adaptation. And everyone knows how notorious they can get, ranging from alienated general audiences to pissing off the fans by deviating away from the source material that everyone identifies with. I'm looking at you, Resident Evil. So, needless to say, I came into anticipating this movie with quite a lot of baggage. But over time, I started to grow more and more curious. After the complaints people had with the original ugly Sonic design, it was later changed to the design that we are familiar with, and the second trailer looked even more promising than ever. I nonetheless waited for the movie's release under the impression that it still wouldn't hold up. But knowing that this was going against all odds, I was surprised at what I saw. The movie was good. It was actually good. Not great by any means, but it was better than expected. With both this and Detective Pikachu, it seems filmmakers are understanding more on how to adapt a video game. But that's only hoping. As expected, the plot is just as formulaic as the trailers have made it out to be, and arguably it's the weakest part of the film. But it didn't seem to bother me as much here because, in the perspective of a video game adaptation, you kinda have to play it safe. Whenever I looked at other video game adaptations, the plots ranged from being confusing to straight up jarring at the expense of its source material, thereby causing audiences to be too alienated in grasping any engagement. Look no further than Double Dragon, Super Mario Bros., or even Resident Evil, where while formulated, it was ambitiously deviated for the wrong reasons. Sonic the Hedgehog, on the other hand, stuck with the source material and utilized it at the advantage of having a basic plot line. And based on that, it has allowed itself to give an origin story. And that's what the movie's focus is outside of the generic formula. Learning where Sonic came from, what his abilities and features have brought forth, and how Robotnik came to be. There's a brief scene where Sonic is a kid in the Green Hill Zone, and the environment is portrayed very well. We learn that the place is a different realm of existence and Sonic is an alien. We also learn that the rings in which you collect in the games also allows portal traveling. This is very familiar with the mechanics in the first game. When you collect at least 50 rings, there's a giant ring at the end of each stage that grants a bonus round. That round involves either collecting a Chaos Emerald or enough rings to earn a continual or extra life. At this point, you can see how the source material works within the movie while balancing its familiarity of the game and the appeal to the general viewers. It explains where Sonic comes from and how the premise is able to work with the weird nature of the game. The real downside, however, is that a part of Sonic's origin story involves an owl named Longclaw. I don't know who she is or where she's from. All I got from her was that she attempted to keep Sonic safe and has been telling him to keep himself secret. She had too little screen time to the point where when she gave her life saving Sonic and exporting him to Earth, I felt no impact at all. I know that some characters can do a lot in a small amount of time, but the origin story for Sonic's childhood was way too fast-paced for me to grasp anything. Thankfully, these are my only complaints along with the generic plot. The best thing I can take away is how Sonic is portrayed and voiced by Ben Schwartz. Compared to the different incarnations of the character, it felt refreshing to have him be childish, socially awkward, and overly hyper at everything he does. In the past gaming title, Sonic was portrayed as this cool kid who's easily idolized. But here, he's a kid who doesn't know any better and is too carried away with anything he runs into. He's been alone at the expense of having to keep himself away and wants to experience many things he never had the chance to do before. We even have a scene where he writes down a list of things he wants to do before he has to disappear from Earth. Not that I have anything against the portrayals of the games, but I heavily adored how this movie went with this. It brings some obstacles about himself along with still being as energetic, silly, and just a lot of fun. It's a deviation of the source material that it can accept as a live-action setting. And considering that this was going to be as such, there had to be a human character to interact with. Enter Tom Wachowski, played by James Marsden. He's a sheriff in a small town named Green Hills, Montana. Gee, doesn't that sound familiar? Wachowski is a very big example of the formula that I pointed out earlier in this review. An adult encountering and interacting with a cartoon character. The last thing that I can remember where a human interacted with Sonic was Chris from Sonic X. And he was one of the biggest self-insert fanfic characters who agitated me to no end. I'm not going to go on a tangent at how annoying he was, but compared to him, Wachowski was a lot more acceptable. He's still generic, don't get me wrong, but his role was decent enough in contributing to Sonic for support and bringing in any chemistry. And last but not least is Dr. Robotnik, played by Jim Carrey. Dr. Robotnik has always been a ridiculous mad scientist, and the way he was drawn seemed way too uncanny for me to have him portrayed in a real-life setting. However, I was still able to see very quickly why casting Jim was a clever decision. Aside from star power, everyone knows how zany and overzealous he was in comedic roles. If you've seen Ace Ventura, you can piece together what's coming. Robotnik was an over-the-top villain, and even at the end of the first trailer, there was a good hint that he was going to be closer to the design that we remember. And as a result, Jim did not disappoint. He's mentally challenged by the world around him because of his intelligence being above everyone else. He relies on his own gadgets instead of people who follow his commands. And when the orders aren't met when attempting to reach Sonic, he falls into a deeper madness that fittingly ties all ends to the origin story. Overall, I had a lot of fun with it, and there really isn't much for me to complain about. There definitely is room for improvement, but as I said before, it's not a great movie. It does a great job at balancing what works for the general audience and the source material that the fans are familiar with. Upon any recommendation, kids will definitely get some entertainment off of it, especially with Sonic and the action. Fans will adore it as well, as long as they can keep themselves open-minded to any minor changes involved. When you get the chance, see it for yourself, and don't expect too much of anything. It's a movie that does play safe, but does the job well enough. To the final rating, I give Sonic the Hedgehog a 4 out of 5. Thank you for watching. This is GoldenFox, and take care.